Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We often think of the human brain as just this static organ, right? Something that just sits up there and quietly works in the background. But what if we completely flipped that perspective? What if we started looking at it as a dynamic, incredibly high-tech tower, one that we're actively constructing literally every single day? Which brings us to a massive question. Can the food on your plate actually rewire your brain for happiness? I know, it sounds a little bit like science fiction, but the source material we're unpacking today reveals some very real, absolutely crucial stakes between our daily dietary choices and our actual emotional stability. We're going to look at the exact nutritional foundations that help us maintain a truly high-functioning mind. Okay, let's dive into this. Feeling cognitive resilience, the blueprint for a better brain. So if we're building this high-tech tower, we obviously need a blueprint. And that blueprint is cognitive resilience. That's the ability to maintain a high-functioning mind and emotional stability through targeted nutritional foundations. And what's so powerful about this concept is that protecting your brain against things like anxiety and depression, it isn't just a psychological endeavor. It's a deeply physical, mechanical process. You literally have to supply the right materials to keep that cognitive engine running smoothly. Let's move to our next section and see how this builds. Omega-3, brain building blocks, the structural foundation. Because look, you simply cannot build a stable skyscraper on a shaky base, right? It just doesn't work. Omega-3s act like special Lego bricks, snapping into place to build a strong, super fast brain tower. These are special types of fats that act as the essential physical structural components for our brain cells. They literally build the walls and the pathways that allow our brain to operate at its absolute highest capacity. And the biological process behind this happens in three distinct steps. First up, the omega-3 molecules fit perfectly into our brain cells, locking into position kind of like structural supports. Once they're totally secured, step 2 kicks in. The connections between your brain cells literally glow brighter, heavily enhancing the brain's internal network. And finally, in step 3, cellular communication becomes incredibly smooth. This just means the messages your brain sends out travel faster, clearer, and without any of that frustrating interruption. So what does this all mean for us? Well, this smooth cellular communication translates into powerful, real-world advantages, especially during a busy workday. Your mental focus dramatically sharpens. Why? Because the neurological messages are traveling so efficiently, your brain doesn't have to burn as much energy just to concentrate. And perhaps most critically, this physical efficiency cultivates a calmer, happier mood. The data consistently shows that omega-3s actively influence symptoms of anxiety and depression. So a physically optimized brain network leads directly to tangible emotional relief. It's a real game changer. All right, let's shift gears a bit. Mineral superheroes for mood, the power grid and crew. Now, what's really interesting here is with the physical bricks laid, we need to turn the lights on. Let's look at the elite operational crew running the power grid inside your head. Each mineral here has a highly specific job. Zinc superpower, that's neuroplasticity, which essentially means it helps the brain adapt and forge entirely new neural pathways. Then we have iron. Iron's mandate is oxygen transport. It is absolutely essential for carrying oxygen straight to the brain and supporting neurotransmitter function, giving you that sustained energy to think clearly and avoid that dreadful cognitive fog. Finally, there's potassium. Potassium regulates electrical signaling in the brain and maintains neurotransmitter balance, which is the absolute key to keeping your mood stable. So the crucial point to remember is that the stakes are incredibly real. Consuming higher amounts of these superhero minerals directly lowers the risk of experiencing depression. These nutrients are absolutely vital for addressing anxiety and keeping mental fatigue at bay. You are quite literally feeding your brain's elite maintenance crew to keep that internal power grid online and fully functional. Which brings us to the big practical question: building your brain diet, sourcing the materials. We know exactly what materials we need now, the structural bricks and the power grid crew, but where do we actually find them in the real world? Well, to source those omega-3 building blocks, you want to look toward oily fish like salmon, seeds like pumpkin and flax seeds, and nuts, particularly walnuts. Now, what about our operational crew? For zinc, reach for pumpkin seeds, nuts, and legumes like lentils and beans. If you need that iron to clear the brain fog, lean red meat, lentils, and leafy greens like spinach are optimal. And for the potassium necessary to keep those electrical signals firing smoothly, just incorporate a diverse variety of fruits and vegetables. By eating from this whole spectrum, you are directly sourcing the exact components your brain needs to thrive. Ultimately, it really all comes down to this core mandate: provide your brain with the fuel necessary to prevent fatigue and depression. There is a direct, undeniable, and totally mechanical connection between our dietary intake and maintaining a resilient mind. We aren't just eating to satisfy hunger here, folks. We are literally fueling the complex machinery of our cognitive and emotional centers. So I want to leave you with this thought. If your brain is built from what you eat, what kind of mind are you building today? Are you laying down a strong, resilient foundation with the right materials? Or are you trying to build a high-tech tower out of cheap parts? It's a question that completely redefines the purpose of our next meal. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and absolutely take care of that amazing brain of yours.